Okay, welcome everyone to session 6 of FoodTreX Global Online Summit 2024. My name is Eric Wolf, and I serve as the Executive Director and Founder of the association. And I am very excited to introduce you today to Federico Pieri, who is an Argentine living in Italy, but now currently in Spain. So you, you get a lot of countries going on there, Federico.
Exactly.
He and I met for the first time at World Travel Market last year, and he works for Taste Atlas, and I really respect the work that Taste Atlas does. I think they are a fantastic atlas of flavors around the world. And we were just talking, and I think Federico has a lot of interesting information and knowledge to share. So I thought, well, why don't we have a conversation with him and see what that turns into. So he's going to be talking about how culinary heritage can be a cultural asset that helps destinations to pivot. So Federico, I will turn things over to you.
Thank you very much, Eric. I'm going to share my screen right now. Just 1 second. Please let me know if you can see anything.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so thank you very much, Eric, for this presentation. And thank you all for being today here with us. It's such a great pleasure for me. So first of all, I will introduce myself a little bit. As Eric has already told you, I am Federico Pieri from Argentina. I'm an Italo-Argentinian. This means I was raised, I grew up in my grandparents, Italian grandparents' house. So that means that food was always something big in my life. So actually, just when I was a teenager, I really realized that I love food, and actually I love it a lot. And I like to share always this image from Ratatouille movie from Disney, because that's the way, exactly way I feel, and I think that maybe every people here in this meeting feels the same way, because we are all into food, and that's the perfect thing about food. What it makes you feel, and what it makes you really think about, for example, in this case, destinations, places that you are visiting. So a couple of more things about me. I studied international business and culinary arts, and have professional experience in both industries. So always food, and always feeling and vibing internationally, as you can imagine. So last year I started working at Taste Atlas. For those who still don't know what Taste Atlas is, we run an encyclopedia with over 15,000 traditional food and beverage from every corner of the world. So basically, if in your next vacations you're planning a trip to Uzbekistan, or wherever inside Spain, or any cities or countries in the world, you can check at Taste Atlas and see which suggestions you have to eat. They are as traditional as local food, or to drink, and in which restaurants you can do so. Apart from that, we provide historical information and characteristics descriptions of every dish or ingredients in a very educative way, and that's what I love Taste Atlas. That's why I love Taste Atlas. All about sharing food, actually, not in a plate, but in terms of information and education. We share as well food anatomies, authentic recipes. So I invite you to visit tasteatlas.com and follow us on our social media. And I think that you will have a great time there, with lots of recommendations of what to eat on your next destination, and which are the best and most traditional spots to try them. So as you can see, culinary heritage is at the center of my life. It has always been, in some sense, but finally is more than ever, and I'm really happy, and I'm really looking forward to this thing to keep like this. And I like to define culinary heritage like something that exists in the intersection of food, culture, and territory. I'm not discovering anything, but it's always good to remind what culinary heritage is exactly. So with the combination of these three things, that's where culinary heritage is nothing if you take out one of these three things. And my thoughts today, the thoughts that I want to share with you today, is how can we appreciate culinary heritage as a pivotal cultural asset. By this, I mean as something essential, often playing a critical role in determining outcomes, and as something that can be used to generate value for us. So actually, in other words, would be how can we generate value using or having our culinary heritage as something central in our lives, the way I like to live. So how can we leverage tourism through culinary heritage? That's the main question. Or how are tourism boards, tourist operators leveraging nowadays tourism through culinary heritage? So this is what it should look like. Like we put culinary heritage on one side, and we on the other side we boost our the average tickets or that consumers spend when they visit our destination, or how can we make more visitors to visit our territory, or how can we offer them more experiences to live. And the news is we are not using AI today because it's such in a great hype that it seems that AI is a solution for everything. But the good news is that we are using HI, that is human intelligence, and history instead. So what we were last year on university in Bologna, we were analyzing was the impact of immigrants in culinary heritage. Immigrants, specifically talking about the 20th century, as you can imagine, tourism was very different at those days. Transnational tourism was nothing compared to what it looks like today. It's an absolutely different landscape. So I like to think about immigrants in the 20th century as the first people who were really travelers. I'm not going to say that they were visitors or tourists, but they were definitely travelers. And they were the ones that were moving and spreading, promoting culinary heritage all around the world. So what we know, and this story also, I felt really captivated about it because, as I told you, I was raised in an Italian house in Argentina. So I really know a lot of stories about immigrants. And I know that most of them left most of their things behind them in search of new horizons, friends, family, properties, and in some cases, they even travel without money. So it was just them and a couple of things on their suitcases, but they carried their culinary traditions with them, and they leverage on these unique assets to build a whole new life or a whole new chapter on their lives. So here you can see, for example, these two images, Italians in US, or someone, I guess, from maybe Turkey, traveling and implementing their techniques, their culinary assets. So we can say, to conclude this part, that in the 20th century, culinary heritage was crucial for them, for immigrants, and that food wasn't just about sustenance, was way more than that. It was an asset. And they get value from this asset in very different ways, through cultural connections, providing a sense of home and familiarity in a new land, in a new landscape, with new everything actually. through community building, sharing meals, forging bonds and support networks among immigrants. Identity preservation, they kept their culinary traditions alive, passing them down through generations, and a sense of self-pride about it. Adaptation and integration, that is when they blended the recipes of food traditions with new flavors or maybe new traditions surrounding lunch or dinners or festivities, contributing to the diverse culinary landscape on their new destinations, on their new home. And finally, of course, in some cases, even the most important for those that were struggling a lot, moving around the world, economic opportunities. Many immigrants found success in food-related business. I think that, for example, Italian pizza is the most famous case. We have Italian pizza from all around the world, nowadays from all around the world, and it was basically because some Italians traveled and said, okay, what can I do for a living? And they started cooking what they knew from their homes. So in some sense, these values provided by their culinary heritage were in some sense the pillars of their social development. But at the same time, after analyzing different immigration waves from all around the world, I also came with the idea that these pillars were also at the same time pillars for keeping that culinary heritage, because if they stop preserving their identity or building community bonds, or maybe adapting and blending their traditions with the local traditions, of course, culinary heritage would end up disappearing as well. So in some sense, it's like a kind of synergy that culinary heritage gives you some value that then when you act over that value, you can continue to preserve that culinary heritage. So then that is when I realized that maybe those pillars, those values could be also used to think about other activities like tourism, and how can we use those pillars for boosting culinary tourism. So in the end, always very graphic, should look like something like this, like these values that were provided by culinary heritage could be also pillars for our culinary tourism. So first of all, maybe I won't be suggesting you the best practices and activities, because I feel like Eric would be much better than me on this. So in terms of strategy, I think there's strategy talking about culinary tourism. There's no one better in this room than Eric. But what I also did is analyze different successful outcomes on different culinary tourism strategies that were implemented around the world, that for me are totally fascinating. So I can share it with you, and then you can take it back home and think about it. And if you are working, or if you are willing to work in the tourism industry at any place in the world, try to think about this and make the exercise of having the flexibility of reapplying what we are gonna see and analyze right now. So the first case I chose was the Peruvian traditional food on the Inca Trail, Machu Picchu. This is something I had the chance to do in the past, and it was totally fascinating. And in terms of culinary tourism, I think every example that I'm going to give can apply for different values, not just cultural connection, but I'm trying to identify maybe the one that seems to be the more accurate. The thing is that Machu Picchu Inca Trail is 4 extreme days of walking through the mountains with temperatures from 0 degrees in the morning during the night up to maybe 25 or 30 degrees, depending Celsius, depending on the time of the year that you visit Machu Picchu. And the fascinating thing is that you are already connecting with their culture because you're visiting a lot of ancient spots. But believe me that the thing of being cooked by Peruvian chefs, and they are not 3 stars Michelin chef, but native people that come with you and cook you papa a la huancaína, rocoto relleno, chupe de pollo, that is like a chicken soup. Rocoto relleno is like a bell pepper, but a Peruvian one, smaller one, stuffed. And chicha morada, it was like the Coke from the Coke or Pepsi or whatever from the Incas, from the Inca Empire. So this makes the whole difference, because that is when you can really connect with their culture in a very present and vivid moment, and not just looking at landscapes and remembering or imagining how do they used to live there. So for me, this was a great strategy, since they are cooking in super extreme conditions and doing it with such a good efficiency. And I think that visitors there get a really great idea of connecting with the Inca culture. And I mean, in terms of recommendation, I'm sure that now you are, if you didn't do the Inca Trail yet, now with all these images, I think that you are closer in terms of the idea of going there. Anyone would be, anyway. So in second place, I choose, as you can see, cases are very different ones to another one. And I tried especially to pick some very diverse cases for this session in order to have a clear idea of how flexible this leveraging of this could be. So Berliner kebab in Berlin is the second example. As you can see, I took this photo from Visit Berlin website. What else can I say that you cannot see here? Doner kebab is clearly wasn't 100% German food, but instead it was brought to Germany by Turkish immigrants. So in 1972, they came up with a slightly variation of the recipe, and nowadays it's sold in over 1,000 outlets around Berlin area. And there's even an annual Kebabistan food festival. So you can even, you are even persuaded to try different doner kebabs, and you have information about doner kebabs in Visit Berlin website, and lots of tourist operators and tourism boards do the same around the city. And let me tell you that this branding makes me feel that doner kebab in Berlin is different. Up to now, I've never tried a better doner kebab outside of Berlin than the one I had when I went there. Call it branding, call it whatever you want, but it really seems to be a very effective strategy. I choose identity preservation because they design a whole new branding from something that it was not originally from that place. So they try to build an identity from a now Berlinese product, a Berlinese dish. So, well, of course, Italy should be present in this list. I mean, Italy is top-notch in terms of culinary tourism. And this case I also choose something related with identity preservation, but a very different case. Here we have a super hyper traditional recipe that is a Napolitan pizza napoletana. So in this case, they already used to have a lot of pizzerias in Napoli selling pizza napoletana. So they, of course, were not struggling to sell pizza or to identify themselves as or to identify this product as essential recipe from Naples, but it was the other way around. People were producing pizzas and also pizza napoletana all around the world. So it was before like the tourism board from Berlin that came up with a solution, with a strategy. In this case, was the Association of Napolitan Pizzaioli, that it's no other than the Naples Association of Pizza Makers, that they built this campaign around the La Vera Pizza Napoletana, that is the real Napolitan pizza. So the idea is that you might try pizza anywhere else in the world, and even imitations of Napolitan pizza, but you need to visit Napoli for the real one. So as you can see, identity preservation, but in a very, very different way. This is one of my favorites because I think you're already getting scared about talking about a burger being inside a culinary heritage strategy, or maybe culinary tourism strategy leverage on culinary heritage. I mean, it's crazy. I've been living in Queenstown I lived in Queenstown for a while. And let me tell you that if you ever go there and you visit another city before and you tell them, I'm going to Queenstown, I'm heading Queenstown, they're going to tell you, oh, you need to go to Fair Burger. And if you go there, you're going to talk with tourist operators or even the tourism board, and then I'm going to talk to you about Fair Burger, that is always full of people. So Fair Burger is a burger shop that opened in 2001, and they, of course, they source Queenstown's raw materials, like, for example, venison, that is something traditional from the south of Australia, but still burgers, just another burger shop in the world. But they have been surrounded by a tremendous hype since the beginning. And this was absolutely leveraged by local tourism operators and tourism boards, as I explained right before. So backpackers, winter sports fans, and because it's full of mountains, so full of ski and snowboard in Queenstown, and even top celebrities enjoyed and contributed to this hype. I mean, we need to think about a country, New Zealand, that is beautiful, but they don't have a strong culinary heritage in the sense that we think about culinary heritage, in the Italian or European sense that we understand culinary heritage. So they need to come up with different and more innovative strategies. They still have some Maori strong culture in the north and maybe some Maori dishes. Nothing super big in terms of portfolio of dishes and recipes, but still something. But in South Island, nothing. So they started a huge campaign around the best burger in the world, and they finally came up with people that ended up posting videos of how to get Fair Burger without waiting, or you can see the reviews in Google Maps. L'Antica Pizzeria da Michele is one of the most traditional and well-known pizzerias in the world. It's from Naples, and it has 40,000 reviews. We are talking about maybe 3 to 4 million visitors per year. And in Fair Burger in Queenstown, just half of those reviews, and with maybe a quarter of visitors per year. Or maybe if you compare it with Phil Mueller, that it's on Taste Atlas is the most legendary restaurant in the world, they almost have the same amount of reviews. For you to understand how engaged people is with this burger shop, you have Ed Sheeran that went to a show to Dunedin, that is like 300 kilometers from Queenstown, and he still asked for a fair burger, something crazy. So this is a very innovative way of building, I would say, culinary heritage. I mean, maybe the product is super, if not the most standardized around the world, but still we are building a community here. After hitting the slopes, grab a fair burger, and you still need to do like maybe 100 or 150 meters queue, but people is super engaged, and it's still a very successful strategy. Açaí, this is one of my favorites. Açaí after jiu-jitsu or surf in Brazil. So açaí is similar to a blueberry, and it was first discovered by indigenous from Amazonas as a source of nourishment. I'm talking about 120 years ago. I mean, the indigenous people, maybe they consume it from 100 and couple of hundred years, but it was discovered by new communities around 120 years ago. In 1920s, communities from Amazonas started to transport this raw material to Brazilian cities because of a crisis of the wood industry. They were losing their jobs, and they took this tradition, this culinary heritage with them. So then communities that were closer to the beach or just bigger cities starting to get used to consume açaí. And in 1970s, with the industrialization of açaí processing and transporting, the hype started. It's important to notice that this is a very sensible fruit, so you cannot preserve it for so long. That's why industrialization was such an important thing, because you won't see açaí like this unless that you travel to Amazonas. But you're gonna know açaí, as maybe you already know it, as a smoothie or as a bowl. This is basically frozen açaí that is processed and is combined with different cereals or grains or fruits. So in 1980s, açaí experienced a really boom in terms of awareness, thanks to Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu, I don't know if you're familiar with it, is martial art, originally from Brazil. It's like a combination of Japanese martial art. So a Japanese family went to Brazil and they changed a little bit and they build a new technique. So they started championing açaí after their training. So lots of martial arts athletes from all around the world went to Brazil and said, okay, this is great. After training, I have a superfood. So they started to enjoy it. And then, of course, surfers also said, okay, also tried it and said, okay, this is great for after surf as well. So in the 1990s and 2000s, Brazilian surfers adopted it as a superfood as well, sharing with surfers from tourists from all around the world, especially from those coming from the West Coast, from the US. So nowadays, açaí is a super established as a traditional superfood. If you're a surfer, you will enjoy it. But if you are not a surfer, as I am not, you still enjoy it, and it's ideal to have it on the beach. And nowadays, I think that you can find it all around the world. There's a very big company that has like almost maybe more than 200 stores all around the world, and is a tourist that went to Brazil from, I think, California for some surf. He tried it. He was totally in love with it. He took it to the US and then to the world. So this is a perfect explanation about adaptation and integration in the whole change from the indigenous communities from Amazonas up to the world, and creating a brand, because maybe if you are very into surf, there's an extra excuse why you should choose Brazil as a destination and not maybe other beaches around South America or in the world, because you still have your acai or maybe other complementary recipes like coco gelato or any other fruits that traditional Amazonas fruits that you have in all these beach shops around Brazilian beaches. So finally, street food in Thailand, and this is also an amazing story. So in the 14th century, we can find the first records of these floating markets, that it was basically the kickoff of the street food in Thailand. In 1960s, an exponential urban population growth stimulated the street food culture, and even displacing home cooking in just a few decades. So in 1960s, well, this is again the same message. 1980s, most customers of street vendors were low-income workers, and more than 70% of street vendors are over 40 years old. That was certainly struggle to find a job. Again, super heritage in terms of what do they were doing after work. They couldn't afford to have time to prepare a super dinner, or maybe they didn't even have the kitchen where to do it. So they started to buy food from these vendors that find this situation as the key to find the social development. From there, we came up to the Michelin Guide. So if you go to Michelin Guide, Thailand, you will find a complete guide of street food. And again, this was a tremendous strategy. You still can find countries in the world. For example, I can think about India that have had a lot of street food there, but the situation is super different. I mean, they are a few decades maybe behind, or maybe a lot of decades behind, but there's still something that they can work on it. So again, this is to exercise the flexibility we need to have in terms of what culinary heritage is, and or how can we shape it and leverage from it. Nowadays, with all this Michelin Guide and lots of Netflix series showcasing Thai street food, Thai tourism achieve to even support these vendors and boosting even more economic growth for them from the society, and also they could elevate what Thai street food is and what it means to the world. So some final comments about what I have already shown you. Culinary heritage comes in all shapes. I already showed you that you can find culinary heritage of maybe 600 or 1,000 years, but then you can still find a place that is already big culinary heritage, that it's also only 23 years old. Different realities, different situations, but always a valid strategy and a successful strategy. Culinary heritage won't leverage our tourism strategy by itself. It's not just a pizza or just a burger or just any kind of a strange recipe, but the real asset is what the value that we can create from it. That's what we should focus on. And finally, we need to explore innovative ways to showcase or even build our culinary traditions. The thing is that I talked with some people that felt like, okay, we are not Italy. We cannot perform a super tremendous strategy around our culinary heritage. And the idea is to be innovative, even looking to the past. So innovative is not just AI and some this kind of novel foods that I respect a lot, but it has nothing to do with, I mean, it's not exclusively that innovation, but the way we think and our mindset should be the innovative ingredients. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn or to follow Taste Atlas, and I will be able to answer any questions or to be part of any conversations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Federico. Very interesting. While our delegates think about questions to ask you, I would like to pose to you the same question I posed to John, and I would like to get your perspective on it. And John just gave a presentation before you, and the question had to do with if cuisine is evolving and there's a lot of travel in the world and resettlement and immigration and movement of people in a way that we've never seen before as a planet. Do you think that in 100 years or 250 years, it will be a sea of sameness, as John put it, so that we'll all be eating the same foods, and whether, you could have curry in Southeast Asia or curry in New York City or curry in Sao Paulo, but it's going to be kind of similar. Do you think you see that happening, or do you think that cuisines will continue to maintain their integrity and their uniqueness, even though we have all of this movement in the world of people?
Okay, well, I hope that not. That will be, if I want to be super technical with that answer, the great risk might be maybe if we cannot keep on growing the same food and producing the same food that we've been producing for so many years. But in order not to get so maybe so dramatic, I think that we are not going to experience we are not going to eat everyone the same, because I think that differentiation for us, for human beings, is essential. So we are always looking for and pushing for differentiation. Maybe yes, we will have like pizza has Boston pizza, New Yorker pizza, pizza Fugaceta in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Napolitan pizza, Roman pizza, pizza Taglio. So yes, maybe that can happen with more dishes, but I don't think that we are all gonna eat the same. I will try not to eat the same.
I hope not, but you mentioned pizza, which is one of my favorite foods. And have you ever had an Armenian pizza?
No.
It's very, very different. It's almost like a flatbread with a very thin layer of ground meat, but the meat is like a paste. They've
Wow.
made the meat a paste, and then it's got the spices and the tomatoes in it. And then I didn't know this, but through our academy, so we teach training for culinary tourist guides and culinary tour operators, one of the students was giving an example for one of the lessons, and he was talking about the Armenian immigration into Lebanon and how it has changed the food there. And they have Armenian pizzas in Lebanon because of this one immigrant 100 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's the big thing, the stories behind the dishes, and as I said before, territory, food, and people.
Yeah. I think that another thing, well, John was talking about terroir and how the terroir would always be different wherever you are. So the temperature, the humidity, the pollen in the air, the dirt in the soil, the experience, how it's served to you, the view, those will all always be unique. But I think also the people, the storytelling. So whether you have a pizza in Naples or in New York City or Detroit or Boston, which are also known for their own variations of pizza, or Armenia, the stories are going to be different.
Exactly.
And that's, you can't have the Napoli story in Armenia or Chicago. It won't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also we should encourage people, decision makers, and and entrepreneurs to tell a new story, to tell their story when they are and maybe they have a new coffee, or they start a new restaurant, or maybe they have a decision-making position in a tourism board. We should encourage these people to think in a very innovative way, out of the box. We cannot deny, I come from Argentina. I mean, in the 1980s, 75% of the population has Italian roots. So maybe, I mean, we cannot deny it. We cannot, I mean, we still have a lot of, for example, meat that is very traditional, and it's not just from Italy, it's very local for us, but we still need to push the limits. And for example, New Yorker pizza fugaceta are these kind of expressions, not just a Neapolitan pizza that is the same that they eat in Naples, something different.
Hmm. We have a question here from John. He says, how do small operators, meaning small businesses, get their stories out there to visitors who know nothing before they get there?
Well, that's, of course, it's very challenging. I was showing you, for example, Fair Burger. I mean, it's just one case in a while, but I think that you should be yourself. Is the same way you tell your story to someone new that can come up to your life and doesn't know you. You should be yourself. Then we can talk maybe for another session about lots of marketing and advertising strategies around that. But the message should be yourself. That's why, as Eric was saying, if you are talking about the history of Neapolitan pizza and you don't have anything to do with it, maybe it will work as a good Neapolitan pizza store, but it won't have something different. You won't stand in front of the crowd.
Yeah, yeah. I think another thing to keep in mind is that, well, when we do destination strategies, we do a culinary tourism asset inventory, and we look at what are those culinary assets, and we look at people as an asset as well. And that's something that I think a lot of destinations overlook. They want to see, okay, we have this number of restaurants from this many cuisines, and we have this many wineries or this many tap rooms for beer. But they forget the people. And the people, how many storytellers do you have? And it could be the nonnas in Italy, right? The cute old ladies that teach their pasta classes, or it could be a barista in a coffee shop who is this quirky person, or a baker, right? Who is working with the bread in the back, but doesn't they always say hello to the people who come into the shop. Hey, good to see you again, that kind of thing. Those people who have a story, they are part of the mosaic, the painting of the local culinary culture just as much.
Exactly.
So we have a comment. I think that the core market has to be your locals first, and then the visitors are the bonus. So this also kind of ties into what we were talking about yesterday, that in the Antigua session, is that a tourism office is kind of a quality of life office now, and destination marketing has become destination management. So residents are, in fact, a valid target market. And we have to remember that as tourism marketers, that it's not just about bringing people into our area, but it's about preserving what we have for the local residents, who then can become ambassadors and take that message out with them when they travel.
Absolutely, I agree. That should be that's a very innovative way of thinking about it. Not just thinking about the person that will arrive on an airplane from after a 14 hours airplane, but telling stories that are easily to understand to your neighbor, or to someone that comes from any other country in the world.
I like this. I'm going to make some notes here. So we've got the idea of quality of life for residents and preserving what you have for future generations, but also as a USP for your destination. Okay, Good stuff. Anyone else have any comments or questions for Federico before we let him go? No, nothing more? Okay. Federico, good to see you. Thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate everything.
Thank you once again, Eric, and thank you, everyone, to be here with me today. I really appreciate it. And just on LinkedIn, Federico R. Pieri, you can search for me if you want to connect. And any questions, I'll be happy to take care of them. Thank you.
And remember, it's Federico, no R after the F, not Federico, but Federico.
Yes, please. It's Federico. That's super important, actually.
Yes. I think I called you Federico the first couple times I
No,
met
of course.
you.
I mean, it's super important. I'm just kidding, because everyone that comes from an Anglo-Saxon country calls me Federico, so it's okay, actually.
You're used to it. Okay.
Yes, I mean, sometimes they call me Freddy as well. Maybe Freddy is fancier.
Okay. Freddie, hey Freddie, kind of like the Italian mafia. Hey Freddie. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Well, for
Thank you
everyone
very
else,
much.
we are going to be starting our next session at 30 minutes after the next hour, which is about 45 minutes from now. And that is going to be the interview with Senegal's Chef Pierre Thiam, and he'll be talking about preserving and promoting West African culinary cultures. And this is a follow-on to the West Africa Culinary Tourism Roundtable that we had a couple of months ago. That was our best attended roundtable ever. It was truly a fantastic session. So I hope that you'll all be there for the next session starting in just about 40 minutes from now. Thank you all.